Welcome to Bitesize Piano. So we're going to be doing something a little bit more different than my usual content today. I'm going to show you some general tips and advice on how to improve your musical handwriting, so your notation skills on blank manuscript. So because we are in the age of technology, we have lots of different software such as Logic Pro, Sibelius, etc. that can write music out for us. So I believe if you read and can understand, or if you're learning how to read and understand music, and then having this skill is still really important even in this day and age, to be able to jot something down quickly for another musician, for example, for like coursework, homework, if you want to become a teacher, if you want to compose something but you don't enjoy using technology to do it. There's many different reasons. So you can do this along with me. You just need to get yourself some manuscript. The one I'm going to be using today is actually my own that I've created, which is only available to purchase off Amazon, so I'll leave the links in the description. It has elements of personalisation at the beginning, so you can write your name in, bands, artists and composers that inspire you, and then we have some note values, the circle of fifths, and a chart with the note names and a keyboard. And then there's 100 pages of 8 wide staves, which is just a little bit easier to notate on when they're a little bit wider, particularly if you're a beginner. If you want to support this and want to have the same one that I use, and then follow the link in the description. So let's dive in. We're just going to start how you would start a piece of music. Piano reads 2 staves at the same time, generally, mostly. We'll need to put a bracket and the first 2 staves to create a grand stave to show that this stave is being played at the same time. We're going to start from the top stave and do a bit of a fancy bracket, and it comes out like that, and then it curls around there. Sometimes you see it as just 2 straight lines at the beginning as well, or 1 straight line, but I prefer the fancy way, and I actually find this drawing it freehand instead of using the ruler just a lot easier. The next step will be to add in our clefs. So that's drawing treble clef and bass clef. So to draw a treble clef, it's also known as a G clef. So we have to curl it around the second line from the bottom. So I start by just below that line, curling it around, and then around again like you're drawing a snail. So we have this, and you sort of go diagonally, and then when you get just to the top line, you loop it back on itself and go straight through the middle of the swirl, and then sort of curl it out like that. So if I draw that again here, we're not going to use the stave, we're just going to use the 2 staves. So curl around the G line, go to the top line, go back on itself, go straight through the middle and curl it out at the end. So that's the treble clef. Although composers, the treble clefs and the bass clefs we see from their original scores, some are somewhat questionable. And then if we draw the bass clef, which is a lot easier to draw, so that's also known as the F clef, so we curl it around the F line, which is the second line from the top. So we curl it around and go diagonal, so it sort of reaches the bottom, and then we dot either side of the F line, like that. So draw another one here. This is going to be our practice line. I'm only going to be using these 2 staves at the top. Round the F line, go diagonal, and then dot either side. The next thing would actually be to draw your key signature. So I'm going to just put in a key signature because this is the order that it has to go in music, but we'll go a bit more in depth with sharps, flats and natural signs a bit later on. Let's just put a couple of sharps in there. This is the key of D major or B minor. And then the next thing you would put after, so after you've done bracket, clef, key signature, is time signature. Let's be basic and just do 4/4, so common time. So 4/4, however you draw your 4s, and everyone does them a bit differently. If you don't already know, the symbol for common time is just a C. You could just use this instead of writing 4/4. The time signature 2/2 is that with a line through it. So it's like cut in half. So the next thing you could do is once we've started it off, I'm going to start drawing in the line. So I'm going to start with the end one. So I know my rule is a bit crummy. So I'm going to connect from the top of the top stave to the bottom line of the bottom stave. I'm going to close the grand stave there. And I'm going to split this line of music into 4 different bars. You can just eyeball this. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to measure it, you don't have to be accurate. And it depends how much room you've taken up here as well. We want 4, so maybe 1, if I do this in pencil, if I do this sort of doing a marker, so like there, maybe like there, and then there. That seems even enough to me. So now I'm going to do that straight as I can. Draw straight down the middle, so these are our bar lines. Straight as possible. And then the last one. There we go, so we have our 4 bars there. So you want to have an awareness of how many beats are in a bar in terms of how your spacing is going to go. So we're only going to keep this simple today. I'm not going to write anything complex. This could be beat 1, that could be beat 2, that could be beat 3, that could be beat 4. And you kind of want to work as evenly as possible like that. In printed music, you often see the bars that are not all the same width. It is entirely to do with literally how many notes exist in that bar. If you have 16 notes in one bar but 3 notes in another bar, that bar with 16 notes in it takes up more space, so it needs to be longer. It's just as simple as that. So if I do the markers on the rest of these bars, again, this is just eyeballing it, and you don't have to do this every time. So now we're going to start drawing some notes. I'm not going to do any particular piece, I'm just going to make something up. So we'll start with looking at the heads of the notes, or like the dots if you like. So I'm going to start here. So you want to do more of a diagonal dot. So this is on a line, this one. More diagonal. Instead of drawing it like perfectly circular, when you look at printed music, it's not circular, it's an oval, it's a diagonal oval. This pen is annoying me a bit. So I've just had to switch pens because it was driving me mad. Oh, that's a bit better. So you kind of want more of an oval like that, rather than something like this which is circular. That takes less time, this takes a bit more time. As long as the note is clear, that's the main thing though. Because this note is higher than the middle line, the stick is going to go down. Depending on what's beamed with what, some sticks will have to be longer than others. For example, if we have this note here, this note here, and then this note up here, so if I join all of these 3 notes together, I'm actually going to make this as a triplet. The majority of the notes, of the 3 notes, are below the middle line, so the stick is going to go upwards, including this one. So this one's going to have to be a bit longer, this one's going to have to be a bit shorter, and that one's also going to be quite long. Triplet sign. So we're going to start this bar on beat 3. We're going to start as an upbeat. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so carrying on then, you can also use beams to help sort of your eyes with direction. So if we have this sort of thing here, so all these sticks are going to go up, we can kind of slant these beam, instead of it just being across, you can sort of slant it so it sort of shows the direction as well. So we're going to draw this note here. The stick's going to go down because it's past the middle line, further up than the middle line, so the stick goes down. And again, I'm more or less, I'm using these marks we made as a guide for each of the crotchet beats in each bar as to where the spacing and the placement of the rhythm goes. And if we have notes played at the same time in the left hand, you have to make sure that they're lined up. Sorry, I didn't mean to draw that line then. So we have, at least you can see it's meant to be lined up. I'm just going to stick a whole note in there, a D. So they're meant to be played at the same time. And you can see that they line up. And draw a dotted note there. The middle line can go up or down. I think my preference is for it to go down. So when I draw eighth notes or quavers or semi-quavers, I draw them quite basic like that. They can often look like this, which does look nice and fancy if you're confident drawing them. It's just, I think that looks, I can more consistently make it look like that rather than a curly whirly line every time. I can't consistently do that. And we have an F and we have a G. So yeah, I'm trying to make the notes, I think because this pen is a bit thicker than the one I started off with, I am trying to make my notes more oval rather than rounded. As long as it's clear what the note is. It has to be clear. If the note's in a space, it can't overlap the two lines. If the note is on a line, it has to be going through the center of it, as you know, as central as possible to the note, and it can't touch the other two lines. Draw a note in the bass clef. This isn't a song. Extra marks if you want to go off and play this. Then so all these notes here, I'm going to write them as quavers. Most of them are below the middle line. And I'm going to draw the beam sort of downwards a bit more. So hopefully that's more or less clear what I've done there. Then we have these notes that are played together. If that's the end of your piece of music, you need to be drawing a second line, so a double bar line in at the end, to show that it's the end. And if you want to repeat a certain section, we put the dots in the inside, so this would repeat this from the beginning, that go either side of the middle line, like that. Then you can go through and add some articulation, so things like staccato, slurs, you could add dynamics. So let's play this one, mezzo piano, MP, and then we can put in a little diminuendo at the end, and we're going to make some of these, let's make some of them staccato. Bum, 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 bum. We could make this smooth, so we add a slur in there. So when writing staccato, obviously it needs to be where the head of the note is. Same with slurs. So these as well, sort of joins the head of the note if possible. So it's starting to look a bit more like sort of a complete piece of music. Again, it's just something very simple. We could write a tempo marking in there, crotchet equals, let's do 104. So metronome marking. So I haven't put any rests in this one. So when writing rests, they need to be as central to the stave as possible. It's just a few different rests. Generally they're all very central. And then when writing things like sharps and flats, I draw my vertical lines first. So let's try and draw an F sharp, so on the top line. So I draw them first, slightly staggered, so the second line is slightly higher than the first line, and then I put my horizontal lines in afterwards, so I can make sure the square that's created by drawing the sharp is in the correct place. So this is on a line. If I draw one here, now that's clearly in the space. Same with a flat. So a flat sign, this kind of looks like a B. So if we draw like a B flat, so I draw down stick first and then I come up there. Some people draw them a bit more sort of like italic, so like on a slant. There I feel a bit easy to write and control, because they almost look like notes, to control where they sit on the stave. A natural sign, this is how I draw mine. So I'll draw it off the stave first. So I do like this sort of sign, and then I go through, again this is where I can control where the note sits. So I go down across down, and then I make the little square there. So let's try on this A, down across down, and then create the square there. That's how I prefer to draw natural signs. Down, across, down. There, you can make it small if you want to. So like with normal handwriting, you know, everyday handwriting, everyone will have their own handwriting style, but the aim is to make it look as neat and as obvious as possible. So it has to be clear what the note is, whether the notes are played together at the same time, and that it's really clear where the beats of the bar lie. So I hope you enjoyed doing that with me, but I hope that gave you some good tips and advice on how to improve your own musical handwriting. If you don't know how to read music and you are interested in, and then go to my course, which is Bitesize Piano Course.co.uk. There I teach you how to play piano by learning how to read music and understand notation. So that link is in the pinned comment and the description, and then you can start learning how to understand music, and then you can practice writing your own as well and get a little bit more out of this lesson here. So I'll see you in the next video. That's the end of this video. If you have a request, please leave them in the comment section of this video. Also remember to like and subscribe. I've left some videos here you might like, so go and check those out. I also have a course, so if you would like to learn how to read music from scratch, go visit Bitesize Piano Course.co.uk. You can enroll and start learning. I'll see you in the next video.